Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny and I cover true crime cases from all over the world, usually in like a super long deep dive, or lately I've been experimenting with shorts, so let me know what you think about those. But today we're doing something a little bit different. Today I am talking about my favorite true crime books. So if you're interested in true crime and you are hoping to find some awesome book recommendations or learn a little bit about some cases you haven't heard of before, then I highly suggest you stick around. So before we go ahead and get into my list, please go ahead and like this video if you did, and hit that subscribe button because I'm sure you will not be disappointed. So when I was putting together my list of what I wanted to cover, I was like, oh my goodness, how do you choose? How do I possibly narrow it down to just like a few? Because I have so many and there will be heaps on here that you have not heard of before. So definitely stay tuned. So I don't have physical copies of all of these because I read on my Kindle as well. So some of them I have here and some of them I will show you a pop-up of what the book is. So number one, my favorite true crime book of all time, and controversial favorite because it's not a murder actually, it's a white collar crime, is Bad Blood by John Carreyrou. And it is so good. I got totally stuck into the Theranos case this year, 2021, during our huge, enormous, never-ending lockdown here in New Zealand. And I just basically became obsessed with the Theranos case, and Elizabeth Holmes' trial was beginning in August, so that was like perfect timing. As of filming this video, by the way, on her trial, the defense and prosecution have just rested their case, so now it's pretty much going to jury deliberations, but it's right before Christmas, so we don't know when that's going to happen or when we'll have a verdict, probably in the new year. But anyway, if you're not familiar with the case, Bad Blood is about the Theranos scam committed by Elizabeth Holmes. And she basically created this pharmaceutical company or biomedical technology company designed to draw blood and run hundreds of tests on just a finger stick of blood. So instead of needing tubes and tubes of blood to be drawn, you could go to your local chemist or even local Walgreens, have a finger stick done, have them milk a little bit of blood out of your fingertip, and use that blood, teeny little tiny drop, to test for pretty much anything. And the idea sounds revolutionary. It's like this incredible, groundbreaking, and life-saving idea. But here's the thing. She managed to build Theranos to a valuation of $9 billion, but the technology didn't work. It was like complete bullshit. And she was selling the investors a complete lie and running tests on these machines that didn't work and putting real patients' lives at risk with invalid results or false results and creating real damage to people's lives because she was selfish. And currently, obviously, the trial's ongoing and we'll find out whether she's found guilty or not. If she's found guilty of intending to defraud, then that will be another video that I'll do in a follow-up. But basically, John Carreyrou broke this case wide open. He was a reporter for the Wall Street Journal, and he brought the issues of Theranos to light because every other whistleblower who had tried to make sounds about the fact that the test didn't work or the technology wasn't what she was promising were pretty much hunted down by Elizabeth's legal team. And thanks to John Carreyrou's incredible investigative reporting, it was all brought to light and Elizabeth was made to face repercussions for what she did. So Bad Blood is the book pretty much from the inception of Theranos up to its epic downfall. And you guys, I cannot recommend it enough if you're interested in things like white collar crime. I just devoured it. It was so great. So yeah, that's my fave. Moving on, number 2. It's got to be a classic. One sec. Left it on my bookshelf. Okay, I'm back. In Cold Blood. This is like one of the OGs, and I'm pretty sure it was like one of the first true crime books I ever read. It's been a long time. I'm probably due to reread it. It's written by Truman Capote, obviously, and it is about the real life murders of the Clutter family committed by two people. And it was quite a random murder, and it's kind of amazing that they even caught them, but it's just phenomenal. It's like the first book of its kind to write a story of a murder like this in such like a narrative way. Like it's just this incredible, beautiful, masterful storytelling piece. It's unbelievable that it's a true story. It's so good. It really reads like a fiction. And I think what is one of the most haunting things about In Cold Blood is as you're reading it, because it's so beautifully written, you then realize, holy shit, everything that's happening in here actually happened in real life. And that's very disturbing. I think this, if you haven't read it, and I'm sure you have, this is like the OG, and you simply must. Next up is another classic. Well, I'd say it's quite a classic, and I only recently read this one. This is one I read this year, another lockdown read. I had thought about it for years. It's been on my Goodreads reading list for a long time, and I was like, I feel like this story's been done to death, but felt like I had to read it, you know. Helter Skelter by Vincent Bugliosi. So it's pretty much the full rundown of the Manson family and their horrendous crimes. This is basically the most complete version of events you'll find. It's really remarkably put together. I learned things in here that I did not know about the case. So if you are interested, if you're really into the Manson family case, or you just want like an all-in-one, complete guide, complete cover, this is it. This is so great. It's really, really, really good. Better than I was expecting. I was like, I thought it was going to be quite boring, repetitive, or just covering stuff I already knew. It was really good. It was very, very, very enlightening. And in fact, I actually read it on my Kindle and then went out and bought the actual physical book. I do that for books I really like. If I read one and I love it, I like to go out and buy the actual thing. I like to collect true crime books that I think are the absolute complete guide to that particular case, So I kind of have this library of incredible resources with everything, all the information I need. Next, I have another one that you guys have probably never heard of, and oh my god, so great. I think I heard about it because there was a movie being made. The movie's already come out, I think. It didn't come out here in New Zealand, but I'm going to try and find it. I don't think it got great reviews, but it doesn't matter because the actual story is so good. And by so good, I mean like really terrible that it even happened. But this book, The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. And this was, it's got a little sticker on it. It says, so this was like one of Emma Watson's book club reads. That's not how I found it. Yeah, it's like popular and well reviewed. So the case of the Radium Girls, this will blow your mind. When radium was first discovered, like in the late 1800s, it was this rich, expensive commodity that only like the wealthiest of people got to have. And if you were able to have radium, like anything with radium on it, like watches, or people would ingest it because they thought it was like this miracle cure for everything. They'd like eat radium capsules and drink radium liquids, which when you think about it today is barbaric, but they didn't know that at the time. It was like a new thing that had just been discovered. And the Radium Girls were a group of dial painters who used to paint watch faces with radium for men at war so that they would be able to see the time, because the radium would glow in the dark. So no matter what time of the day it was, they'd know what the time was. And also, like, not just for men at war, but it was like really expensive form of watch for people living in the United States. Again, it was like a status symbol thing. So they had these women work in these factories and paint these dials. And as they're like painting with the radium to get because it's such a teeny tiny like surface area that they're working with, they have to dip their brushes in the radium and then put it in their mouth to like point the tip of the brush. And it was called lip pointing. So they would be constantly ingesting small amounts of radium day in, day out for years and years and years. And these women started dropping like flies and dying the worst deaths imaginable at ridiculously young ages. Like, I'm talking some women died in their late teens, some in their early 20s. Barely any of them lived past 30. And so the story is about how their deaths were finally recognized as being linked to radium, and how that then went on to affect the big American Radium Corporation. So this was honestly phenomenal, so fascinating. And when I read about it, I was like, oh my god, I need to cover this case, I want to do it. There's already some really great videos out there on the Radium Girls, so those are definitely worth checking out. Sometimes when I really enjoy a story like this so much, and this is the case with the Theranos story as well, I decide not to cover them because I just feel there are too many details to know where to even start. Like, I would need to write a book, to be able to include everything. And I feel the same thing about the Theranos one. There's other amazing videos out there. So definitely though, if you're looking for a place to start, this book was insane. Loved it. Can't recommend it enough. And up next is one I have talked about before. It is Black Hands, the story of the Bain Family Murders. This is a New Zealand one. This is by Martin van Beynen, and he has done the most incredible investigative journalism on the Bain Family Murders. So he originally wrote his script for what became his podcast script, was originally intended to be a book, but his editor thought that it would be an incredible podcast, so he decided to do that first, and it became an international hit. But he did eventually actually release the book, and I bought this book because I'm really interested in the Bain case, read it, and I learned so much more about the story that he doesn't include in the podcast that I couldn't find on my research. It is such a thorough account of that family and everything that we know. If you are on the fence about who did it, this will confirm for you who was the more likely culprit. But even if you are not a Kiwi or not familiar with the Bain case, I highly recommend reading Black Hands, because just in general, it's one of the most masterful true crime books I've ever read. It's so thorough and engaging and fascinating, and yeah, I just love it. Next is Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, and this one's by John Berent. I don't think I said that right. Don't hate me. This is another one of those, in cold blood level classic novels. Another one of like the early stories that I read when I was first getting really into true crime. And what is so appealing about this one is it's another one that really reads like a novel, and it's really remarkable that it's actually a true story. It is a beautiful read. So basically, the story covers the journey of an antiques dealer who is on trial for the murder of a much younger male sex worker. And you get to know all the characters in the town, and there are so many layers to it, and it's so beautifully it's just so beautifully written that if you're a big reader in general and you are really interested in deep investigative journalism, then this is another one that I highly recommend. There's a reason it's a classic. It's stunning. It also really makes me want to visit Savannah in Georgia. And the next one is one I have recommended in a previous video as well, and I'm going to talk about it again because this is by far the most emotional and resonant true crime story I've ever read. It's technically a true crime story, but it is so much more than that. So the next one is Sophie's Legacy, written by Leslie Elliott, who was Sophie Elliott's mother. And I talked about the book Sophie's Legacy because I referenced a lot of it in my video on Clayton Weatherston and the murder of Sophie Elliott, so check that out if you haven't already. But this book basically was written by Leslie as a way to reclaim her daughter's story, her daughter's reputation, because the defense sure tried their darndest to defame her as much as possible when Sophie had no means of defending herself because she was murdered by that asshole. So this book really resonated with me. It was actually very, very emotional, and deeply upsetting to read, and it took me a really long time to actually finish it. It took me like 4 months to get through it because Leslie's pain is so raw and is so powerful to read about this mother's struggle and what she went through, what she witnessed, the far-reaching impact that her daughter's death had on her and her family. The reason I really rate this book, aside from providing beautiful insight into who Sophie Elliott actually was, is because it is a very, very important reminder to those of us who exist in this true crime world, in this true crime community, that there are actually real people and real families on the other end of this. And I think it's very easy for us to forget that, there are real lives involved. We walk this fine line of entertainment versus education. So for me, it was like a very important reminder and wake-up call to be as careful and respectful as I can be. So I think it's really important that we consume content put out by the families as well, so that we can show our respect and make sure that we are acting with integrity. So definitely cannot recommend this book enough. Please check it out. Now, the next one on my list is, again, not like a specific case, but it's one that I read this year. It's new. It's been published this year, and I loved it. I totally devoured it. And this one is The Light of Days. And it's written by Judy Battalion, and it covers the incredible stories of the women fighters of the Jewish resistance during the Second World War. These women were incredible. Like, the things that they did, the courage, the bravery, what they witnessed was just unreal. And I just feel like we forget that was not that long ago, and that many of the women who saved lives, who lost their whole families, who went through actual living hell that none of us will ever be able to comprehend, are still alive. Like, this was not that long ago that this happened. These sorts of stories, the real human, actual people stories, we just don't hear about them anymore, And I live in New Zealand, so we obviously learn about, World War II in school and stuff, but I think we should do what we can to consume and learn about these sorts of stories, because this is about as true crime as it gets, what these women went through, what they were subjected to with their families. So if you're interested in history and true crime and history, I really recommend reading The Light of Days. Recommend it anyway, because it's just a very important book. This was haunting and horrifying and inspiring, and just, man, it was a full journey. So definitely check this one out. Now, I have 3 more on my list, but I actually don't have the physical copies of these ones. So the next on my list is Mindhunter, written by John Douglas. And yes, that is the book that the TV show Mindhunter is based on. Now, I just friggin' loved Mindhunter so much, you guys. Oh my God. In fact, I went on to read like 4 more of John Douglas's books after that, because it's just unbelievable. Like, his work is so great. So he is a former FBI agent who was part of the original criminal profiling team at the FBI. So they went and conducted studies interviewing Ed Kemper and Charles Manson and Jerry Brudos, and like so many of these, the worst of the worst, like the heavy hitters, as they say, to learn more about criminal profiling and what leads a person to commit these horrendous crimes. And basically, Mindhunter is the thesis of his work, and he talks about his experiences with each of these people, the processes of solving cases, different cases he's worked on throughout the course of his career, and it is absolutely fascinating. I loved that book so much. I wish I could read it again. So definitely, that's probably honestly on par as my favorite, along with Bad Blood, I have to say. Mindhunter is just the most amazing. And another one on my list that I don't have the physical copy for is another classic, as they say, which is The Stranger Beside Me by Anne Rule. And y'all have probably all heard of this one. This is about Anne Rule herself, who is an iconic true crime writer. She's since passed, but she used to work alongside Ted Bundy in a like crisis call center, like a depression call center for a long time while she was also working as a crime writer, and she never suspected that he was an active serial killer, which he was at the time. So she writes about her experience with Ted and how she never saw the signs, and it's another one that is just, you've probably already read it if you're watching this video. If you haven't, you simply must, because it is a classic. It's super scary to think that we could all be living with Ted Bundys in our life and have no idea, when even somebody as alert and switched on as Anne Rule never picked it up. And the last book I have for you on my list today is called The Five: The Untold Lives of the Women Killed by Jack the Ripper, and it's written by Hallie Rubenfeld. And this was another beautiful work of art, and I do think that there's probably quite a bit of artistic liberties taken, because she's written it in such a beautiful way where it really reads like a novel and you really feel like you're getting to know these women. So I'm not sure how much of it is like 100% true. It's another book that reminds us that there are actually human beings behind this, and we so often focus on the killer and who the killer was, and not enough on who the actual people were whose lives that person stole. And what was really fascinating about The Five is firstly that it's not actually that, I mean, this has kind of been discussed a lot lately, but it's not really even that clear that Jack the Ripper actually did kill each of these women. It's entirely possible that they were different people who killed them. But also just how horrendous life was back then, and like the horrors that these women were subjected to. They were all so resourceful and resilient, and it's really quite remarkable. So I think if you're active in the true crime community, it's really important to consume content like this to make sure that we are staying down to earth and remembering that there are real lives behind it. So I really enjoyed it. I really recommend that one too. I obviously recommend all of these because I think they're all great. But before we finish up, I wanted to touch on one thing, because I think that this is going to probably be quite controversial, but I feel like I have to say it, okay? There's one book which is considered like a true crime classic, like a must read, and I just didn't like it. I really didn't like it, and I'll tell you why. I didn't like it because I felt like, at the same time that I was reading this book, my boyfriend was listening to a podcast on the same case at the same time. And we finished at about the same time, right? I feel like I read that whole book and came away knowing less about the case than he did after listening to like a 10-part episode series. So here's the book. Don't hate me. So if you don't know what this book is, it's I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and it was published posthumously by Michelle McNamara. Now, it's basically Michelle McNamara pretty much dedicated her entire career to trying to hunt down the Golden State Killer. This is like 90% her account that she put together over the course of her career, all of the evidence she found and all of the work that was done on the case. And then, very sadly, Michelle died, and her husband went on to finish it and publish it for her. And it has become like a cult classic, I guess. But I just didn't like it, okay? And I feel like it's bad to say, but I just didn't really love it. I really, really struggled to get through it. Really, really struggled to finish it. And obviously, they did actually catch the Golden State Killer. But what kind of annoyed me is they made it seem like Michelle McNamara was really responsible for helping catch him. She wasn't. She really wasn't. I know she was very interested in the case, but she seems like just like a very passionate sleuth who spent a lot of time investigating it. But ultimately, it was a genealogy website that caught the Golden State Killer, which had sort of nothing to do with any of it. So I feel like it has been put on this pedestal, and I just don't think it really deserves to be there. Don't hate me. I'm sorry, but it's true. Hey, look, if you disagree, if you love this book, if you think it's amazing, please let me know below, because I have an open mind. I'm prepared to be swayed in my opinion. So please let me know what you think if you think otherwise. But I just felt like I had to touch on this. I even bought the thing because I was expecting to love it. I bought it in advance and I thought I'd love it, and I didn't. I thought it was really boring. I said what I said, sorry. Okay, well, that is us for today. Just a bit of a short, fun one, a little bit more lighthearted. Let me know if you enjoy this kind of video. If you have any book recommendations, please let me know in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear what you're reading, what you've loved, any case recommendations, etc., etc. Please go ahead and feel free to share. Otherwise, if you're with me so far, thank you for watching and for sticking around. Stay safe, be kind, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.